Start trading crypto today. Sign up for our step-by-step video series to get set up with the best trading tools, start analyzing charts, enter and exit a trade properly, and most importantly, see if crypto trading is right for you. Join us at bitlabacademy.com.
Welcome to Rice TV X. You've just tuned in for the latest transmission of Stranger Than Fiction. Today's guest is John Bush. He is one of the co-founders of Freedom Cells. He is also a fellow content creator and entrepreneur. And on this freedom-focused episode, we're going to be talking about the importance of community building, especially today. How Freedom Cells can help you do just that and a whole lot more. Before we get into it, visit ricetvx.com and sign up for my mailing list so you never miss an update or new Rice TVX content. You will also find my various social media links and more. You can also find Rice TVX on Odyssey and Library, where I have a full catalog of my videos, post up extra content, and share other appearances. And you can also find Rice TVX on BitChute. Right now, you can save $250 on a 3-month food kit from My Patriot Supply. It is their lowest price in 3 years to help you fight inflation. Go to prepwithrice.com and get your $250 savings on this 3-month emergency food kit. That's prepwithrice.com. We have coming food shortages, global food supply chain issues, fertilizer is scarce and expensive, farming problems. Be smart, be prepared, not scared. You can also save $50 on a 4-week emergency food supply. Visit prepwithrice.com. I will include links in the video description for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything shared on today's video. All right, joining me on today's show is a guest that I've actually been looking forward to talking to for quite some time. He is involved with a project that I talk about often called Freedom Cells, the Freedom Cells Network. I am joined by fellow freedom fighter, Mr. John Bush. John, welcome to the show. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I appreciate you accepting the invitation. I had Derrick Broze, B-R-O-Z-E. I always had to distinguish between the Derrick Brozes because there's more than one. There's a Derrick Broze with a B-R-O-E-S who has a YouTube channel called Global Witness, and we collaborate. So I've had both of them on. But the Derrick Broze that's associated with you and Freedom Cells, I'll have a link for that interview that took place April of last year. But I'm definitely looking forward to kind of getting some updates on what's going on with not only Freedom Cells, but everything else that you're involved in. You have the Live Free Academy, the Live Free Now podcast, Brave Botanicals, and you have your very own YouTube channel, which people can check out. And I encourage them to go over and subscribe. Everything we talk about will be linked below in the video description. And you can find John's channel at Live Free with John Bush on YouTube. So, John, for people who might be unfamiliar with who you are, do you mind kind of giving a brief introduction as to who John Bush is?
Sure. I've been an activist for 20 years now, ever since I learned about what was going on with all the crazy 9/11 stuff. That led me down a rabbit hole, researching the conspiratorial view of history. I learned about libertarianism from Ron Paul, became an activist for liberty, did a lot of political work, had 2 kiddos along the way. I'm an entrepreneur, run multiple businesses, very passionate about entrepreneurship. And I have focused lately, for the past 10 years at least, on the creation of alternative institutions. So for 20 years, like I said, I've been focused on how to create more freedom in our lives. And I came to realize that politics is definitely not the answer, nor is protesting or lawsuits. If we want freedom, we have to create freedom for ourselves by creating new systems, decentralized systems, parallel structures, parallel economies, growing our own food, pulling our kids out of government school and homeschooling. And so that's where a lot of my energy has gone towards. In 2004, 2005, came up with this idea for Freedom Cells. It's a decentralized global network of freedom-loving people that are focused on solutions, building the alternatives, and supporting one another. Learned about cryptocurrency back in 2011, 2012, and have been very passionate about decentralized technology ever since then. So I'm just trying to do my part to help inspire and empower people so they can take control of their lives and live a life that's more in alignment with their values.
Well said, my friend. Well said. And we're definitely very like-minded in a lot of ways. You mentioned politics not being an answer, and Derrick Broze, he ran for, was it mayor of Austin?
Yeah, mayor of Houston.
Mayor of Houston. Okay. So you don't think getting involved in politics to try to change things from the inside, from even a local level, has much of an impact at all?
Well, we all have limited time and energy. And me personally, I think that it is more effective to spend that time and energy, resources, and money on building these decentralized networks. I mean, Derrick wanted to reach people. You can use it as a platform, right? But I don't know. I wasn't.
Well, Adam Kokesh running for not president with the Libertarian Party.
Yeah,
and, I won't continue that.
I'm not a fan of the Libertarian Party, but I would say that, you know, like if there's an effort on the ballot to decriminalize weed or something, then, you know, by all means. I used to be a little more like snobby about anarchism and politics, but at the end of the day, if someone is passionate about something, if they enjoy doing it, if it brings them fulfillment and it supports the cause of liberty, then by all means. I just think the problem with politics is we're playing by their rules in their system, and even if you make changes, they're small changes. Ultimately, what we need to do is replace the current system altogether with systems that are decentralized, mutually beneficial, and consensual.
I like the way you're thinking. And that's also more localized, kind of going back from what I think of what the founding fathers wanted from this nation was to have everything bottom up and not top down as the federal government has created things to be.
That's what some of them wanted. But then you got the Alexander Hamiltons of the time. But
yeah, you're Federalist versus anti-Federalist.
Sure. Yeah. The anti-Federalist for sure is who I would resonate with.
Me too. And I'm actually planning on doing a video kind of explaining the difference between the two, because I feel like it's very relevant today and should be spoken about amongst, you know, the people that call themselves our public servants, our supposed politicians. Now, dude, I mean, one of the things, I mean, you say you're trying to do your part in helping, and, you know, I have to commend you in all honesty. I mean, because you're all over the place. I mean, you got your YouTube channel, you got Freedom Cells. We're going to talk about the Live Free Academy, which involves cryptocurrency, education, survival, kind of prepper type courses, Exit and Build, the Land Summit. We'll get into all that. You also have Brave Botanicals. I mean, you're all over the place. And I commend you for doing what you're doing. And I appreciate the idea of Freedom Cells. And I know that there's more people involved with this, but from my research and my understanding was this is something that you created. Ultimately, you were the initial person to come up with this idea and put this into fruition. Is that correct?
I birthed the idea. Yes. I was really, you know, I'd been around. I'd like to think I played a role in the transition of the liberty movement away from politics, minarchism, reform the Republican Party, right? Because Ron Paul really ignited this mass movement of young people and old folks alike that were concerned with liberty. But, you know, early on in 2009, I learned about agorism, which is revolutionary market anarchism. So I really started leaning into alternative institutions and just exiting and creating more freedom in our own lives without having to wait for the politicians to do the right thing. And so I was watching more and more people come around to voluntarism, right? The idea that all relationships should be voluntary. However, myself and others that considered ourselves voluntarists or anarchists, we were still complying with all these government mandates and edicts and taxes and regulations. So I started like thinking like, okay, what's missing here? Why are so many people that recognize we're free and sovereign human beings still participating in the system? And I came to realize that what we're missing is strength in numbers. If we have more people that believe in freedom and are willing to put some skin in the game and exercise that freedom, I think we could achieve liberty in our lifetime. And also around this time, I was really starting to resonate with the idea of working in small groups. There's a guy named Bob Podolsky wrote this book called Flourish, where they talk about 8 people being the best number of people to have for maximum creativity in a group. Stuart Rhodes, who's in a lot of trouble over the January 6th stuff, he does Oath Keepers. And at the time, they were transitioning from a national movement to more local, decentralized county groups. And there's this other guy named Nick Ludwig in Minnesota that had this small group manual. So that's how I kind of came up with the idea for the Freedom Cell thing. And we had a group of 8, an inner cadre that was surrounding this property that I lived on where my kids were born. We homesteaded. We have a community garden. The group kind of fell apart. And, you know, I talked about the idea in speeches and podcasts, but thankfully, Derrick Broze caught on to the concept. It really resonated with him. So I really, you know, I came up with the idea, but I credit Derrick for turning it into a real world network. Because I like pulled back. I had to focus on entrepreneurship and pull my family out of the poorhouse. But Derrick created the website. And then I also like to credit Dr. Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, and the COVID regime. Because before COVID, there was 1,000 people in the Freedom Cell network. Post-COVID, there's over 30,000. So
people are waking up. People are waking up, man. I love it. And I wasn't trying to diminish anybody, especially Derrick's role within Freedom Cells. I was trying to make sure that I understood it correctly, that the idea started with you,
I came up
which
with
I appreciate, man, because it's a great,
we consider ourselves co-founders.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, again, it's a great idea. Before, and I'm going to get you to explain Freedom Cells in your word and explain the benefits of it. But before we do, you mentioned a word. Could you define for people that are listening that may be unfamiliar with the term agorism, what it means? Yeah.
So agorism it's a philosophy, but more so than that, it's a strategy. And it was first coined by a gentleman named Samuel Edward Konkin III. That was a libertarian activist who became disillusioned with the Libertarian Party and thought there's got to be a better way to create freedom rather than party politics. So he wrote a book called The New Libertarian Manifesto. And in that book, he laid out the philosophy, the strategy of agorism, which essentially is about creating decentralized voluntary systems, specifically what he calls counter economics, which is counter-establishment economics. That's participating in systems, networks, financial relationships, commerce without asking permission from the man. So cryptocurrency is the perfect example of agorism, although it's becoming more and more mainstream and regulated, but there's still Monero and all sorts of stuff going on off the books. And so, yeah, that's really what it's all about. I like to say agorism isn't about competing in the system. It's about competing with the system to create new systems. So, yeah, there's all sorts of great info. If you just search agorism and Samuel Edward Konkin, it's the strategy that we utilized for the Freedom Cell Network.
And that's what that's exactly kind of the reason when you mentioned it, I was asking you to explain the definition, because I really feel when I think about Freedom Cells, I think about agorism. That it really comes to mind. Cryptocurrency, it's a tool that can be used in agorism, but the complete idea of what Freedom Cells is to me is straight up just agorism. So, and I love this idea, like everything that's going on now, where it's very unquestionable. I don't know if you've seen like those FBI leaked documents from Project Veritas about MVEs. I don't like to say the term because YouTube with their censorship, I don't want to upset the YouTube overlords. But they're basically, it's people who have like Gadsden flags that they're using like 1776 kind of imagery, things from our founding fathers, the Betty Ross flag. And they're trying to potentially deem them domestic terrorists. Which is really dangerous. I personally was in DC on January 6th. I was actually live, one of the few places I could actually go live on because of all the problems with signal. I was live on Facebook when people broke into or went into the Capitol. So I didn't have to deal with any sort of legal repercussion. Or
you were at the Capitol?
Yeah, I was there. I was like, wow. But I wasn't. Like I was, if you know, there's like there's a street that goes around it, you know, because it's in blocks. I was on the front side on the street, right in front of the lawn. So I was over at the Capitol, but there was just so many people, and I was actually looking for some of my friends.
I bet you're glad you didn't go closer.
No, I'm definitely glad, and I'm glad that I was live when I went. But I'm glad that I went because I got to see the patriotism. You know, I got to see there are more people waking up, and that's where we got to connect. And that's where I saw something like Freedom Cells. And I even mentioned to you peoplesrights.org, which I'll share later in the video. And I do want to get you and Ammon Bundy on a show together and talk about even combining forces in some capacity, or at least co-aligning. But the whole idea of Freedom Cells to me is connecting people in smaller areas in your local area. And then you could take those different little connections of people and interconnect them with other groups and form larger connections, larger cells. So in your words, what exactly is Freedom Cells, and why do you feel that it's so needed today?
Okay. Essentially, the Freedom Cell Network is a group of people that value freedom, truth, bodily autonomy. They recognize that we have some pretty major problems in this world. Many of them recognize there's a conspiracy going on to control and hurt people and to set up a global technocracy surveillance society, right? We recognize that, but what we're spending our time doing is building and creating freedom in our lives right now. So how it works is we encourage people to link up with like-minded people and form small groups. We call those small groups inner cadre. So you have this like tight-knit core group of approximately 8 people. As I said before, 8 people is the optimal number of people for maximum creativity. And what we're trying to do is create things and build things. Doesn't have to be 8, can be 6, can be 9, can be whatever you want, really.
Right.
So you get those groups, you start meeting regularly, maybe weekly, at least once a month. You come up with some goals together. Maybe we're going to make sure we all get 25% of our food from local food sources in the next 3 months. We are going to do self-defense training, firearms training. We're going to work out together. We're going to get the kids together, whatever it may be. And you just start building and hanging out, building those connections. Now it expands from there when that small group links up with other small groups. This forms a larger group. Maybe it's spread out across a city, across a part of town, across a state, right? And then ultimately those middle groups, we call it a middle cadre, they link up with other groups, and this is what forms the Freedom Cell Network. So for example, here in Central Texas, I used to live in Austin. We moved to the neighboring county and got a 10-acre homestead. It's more of a rural town, definitely more like-minded, more conservative, really chill and slow. But in Central Texas, surrounding Austin, there's about 750 people. So we have the Central Texas meta cadre, and then underneath that, not underneath, it's all horizontal, right? There's no hierarchy, but within that larger group, we have a Bastrop group and a Fayette County group, San Marcos, downtown, Hill Country. Then within those groups, there's a bunch of smaller groups that link up and connect more. So what we're trying to do essentially is create our own functioning free society where we provide and support one another in our common wants and needs. There's businesses, there's entrepreneurship, there's all sorts of mutual aid. We're just supporting one another. And we have an incredible website. Our good friend Ramiro Romani, he's one of the organizers of the network, along with me and Derrick. We just launched freedomcells.org 3.0, freedomcells, CELLS.org. And on the website, you can go and register. You can set up an account. If you're really concerned with privacy or whatever, you can make a fake email or use a fake name, whatever. And then you put your skills, you put what role you want to play. Maybe you have land and you're looking for community. Maybe you're a builder, carpenter, technologist. And from there, you can add an address. Now, we encourage people not to put their home address, but to put a landmark or a park down the street or the coffee shop down the road. And once you put yourself on that map, now you're gaining access to the member map, and you can see if there's other people in your area. Now, we just moved to a small town outside of Austin, and wouldn't you know it, there's like 5 people within a 5 or 10 minute drive from us. Really cool. A lot of people feel they're all alone and isolated. They go check out that member map and they find there's somebody just a block or 2 away. And then you message them, you organize a meetup, maybe a meetup online first, or you go to a coffee shop, meet up. And before you know it, you're starting to find people that maybe you want to buy land together. Maybe you want to pull your kids out of government school and homeschool them. Maybe you want to do a perma blitz where you go help set up food production systems on different people's properties across the area. So really excited to see this is really growing, and it's transformed from an idea to a real world network of people that are helping one another to create freedom.
I mean, I love it, dude. And that's why I really wanted to bring you on to highlight what it is, because I'm going to be talking more about it. started to get involved, and then I slacked off. And I know that the website was going through some upgrades and changes with the 3.0 version. So I'm planning on utilizing the platform a lot more. I'm going to try to, I'm going to set up some local crypto meetups, maybe some
Cool
freedom type meetups. So I'm going to use Freedom Cells as the main way of trying to organize people.
Yeah.
I look at it as like a, a better version of meetups, like meetup.com or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to explain it. And I definitely encourage people to get involved. There is no charge, but you can donate to the project. And I would encourage people that are in a position to help out to definitely do so. And again, all the links will be down below. So I want to go ahead and move on now and talk about your next thing that you got going on, which is Live Free Academy. You guys are doing all kinds of different, I don't know if you call them seminars, classes, courses, but a lot of educational content from anything from cryptocurrency to the Exit and Build Land Summit. I have links. I'll have a referral link if anybody's interested in participating and checking out any of these things. Some of the courses are free, and some of them there is a cost. And if you guys do, it obviously goes to help out what these guys are doing, and it would also be a way that you can support Rice TVX. So right now on screen, I've got pulled up the Homesteading on a Budget workshop. Do you, I guess before we get into the workshops, do you want to just kind of give an overview of what Live Free Academy is?
Sure. Yeah, it's a business I started last April, and our goal is to help people create freedom in their lives with a focus on cryptocurrency and decentralized technology, entrepreneurship and financial independence, and exit and build strategy. That essentially means exiting the systems that we disagree with, we find unethical, and building the alternatives. And so we really help to empower people by educating them, inspiring them, and then linking them up with communities of people that are all on this same path. And we've done a lot of great events, some cryptocurrency workshops. We've dove deep. We also did a Crypto for Beginners workshop. Just this May, we did our second Exit and Build Land Summit. It was attended by 450 people or so here in Bastrop, Texas. We had thousands and thousands, like 26,000 people registered. It was a really big hit. We're going to be doing another one in next May 18th to the 22nd, if folks want to join us. But yeah, that's really what it's all about. I do consulting. We have a membership program that people can join as well. And again, the idea is to educate people and help provide them with the tools and the knowledge necessary to create real freedom in their lives.
Okay, cool. Now, so people have to create an account and everything like that to be able to utilize Live Free Academy, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have like webinars, and we have some free summits. Like people can go to the Exit and Build Land Summit page and sign up for free there. But for the membership, you have to create an account. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Awesome, man. I really like that. So the next thing that we have going on, which you sent me a referral link for, an affiliate link. So again, I encourage people that are interested to make sure they're using that link to support the channel. You want to talk about what the Exit and Build Homesteading on a Budget is? I mean, I think the title kind of says it all, but I like the idea and I appreciate you doing this.
Sure. So when we did the Exit and Build Land Summit, I realized, and that the whole Exit and Build Land Summit thing was like exit the cities, buy land, and build community in the country. Maybe you buy land cooperatively and do an intentional community, or maybe you buy your own homestead, but then you link up with your neighbors, and this guy's got the tractor that you borrow, you have chickens, you trade the eggs, they do the homeschooling down at this person's house. And so I came to realize, because in my work, I really am obsessed with success literature and self-development philosophy. And I've really become very conscious of limiting beliefs. A lot of people have these self-imposed limiting beliefs that hinder their success, and they don't have to, because really it's a lot of stuff that's in their head and their mind. But I came to realize that one of the biggest limiting beliefs that's preventing people from exiting and building, from homesteading, from being more self-reliant, from moving out to the country and buying land, is the idea that I can't afford it. I don't have the money. I can barely afford rent. How could I afford a down payment? And so they just stop there. And it's funny. I realize that a lot of people, when you share big ideas that could be very beneficial and helpful for them, the first thing that they do is think of reasons that it can't work for them rather than ways that it can work. Cryptocurrency, especially, like I've been pounded on crypto. Hey, what if, you know, these central bank digital currencies are coming and the government's controlling us and they want to surveil all your money and transactions and they want to shut you down for supporting the trucker convoy in Canada. What if I told you there was this decentralized way that's uncontrollable where you could send and receive money anywhere in the globe and there's nothing the government could do about it, right? That sounds like a great idea.
Right.
Well, of course, all these people are like, well, what if they shut down the internet? What if there's an EMP? What if they make it illegal? It can be hacked, blah, 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 blah. Rather than being like, wow, that's fascinating. I'd love to learn more. It sounds really promising. I'm skeptical, but I have an open mind, right? So that's the same thing with the money stuff. And what we're trying to do with this homesteading on a budget workshop is show people how they can do more with less. We're going to teach them about strategic grocery store runs, bulk food items that are affordable and last long. We're going to be joined by Marjorie Wildcraft, who perhaps is one of the world's leading experts on food production and doing food production in a scrappy kind of way. We're also going to be joined by Paul Wheaton. He's one of the world's leading experts on permaculture, and he does this program called SKIP, Skills for Inheriting Property, where he aims to link up older generation folk that own land, but they're in their twilight years and they don't want to pass the land on to their kids because they'll just sell it. They don't want the government to take the land if they pass. So they're trying to find young people that are willing to put in the work to learn how to manage land and to grow food and link those two groups up. And then my good friend Nomad Brad, he's actually one of the community members on Radical Roots Ranch, our 10-acre homestead. And he's going to be teaching about nomadic living. He took a U-Haul and converted it into this really nice house on wheels. But he lives at our property now, and he's definitely somebody that operates on a small budget, but's managed to do a lot of really cool things in his life. So we hope folks will register. We purposely kept the price low on this workshop so more people could access it, and we're really excited for people to join. I think it's going to be really valuable information, especially with all the crazy stuff going on with the food shortages, supply chain problems, and all this stuff, and the inflation.
And the inflation and everything else. I mean, it's like we're stacked upon stack with problems. And that's, again, it's like everything you're a part of and helping to build is like bringing solutions to the table. And that's one of the focuses that I'm trying to put more emphasis on is solutions, because like the whole self-defeatist mentality that people come at, which what you were explaining, and it's just the way that people have been conditioned. But if they start looking at the world a little bit differently, started looking at new eyes, this life is beautiful, and there's a lot of things that you can do that you're not aware of that you can do until you wake up to those realities. We're a lot more powerful than you think we are.
That's
and
right.
I'm saying this to myself and everybody else who's watching this. I mean, I'm trying to manifest the idea. You kind of said it earlier, that when enough people take a stand, nothing can stand against the people. Sure. And I always have to add now, because of everything that's been going on over the past few years, that we can peacefully change the world. I don't feel as if that is going to be an option, but I would love to see that take place. I mean, I'm not trying to promote violence. I know nothing that you're trying to do is promoting violence. It's just not participating in civil resistance, which is very like things kind of like even Gandhi was kind of very much like that in India, the way that he handled things. Because I mean, that was a war, but he didn't respond in the typical fashion that you would see in a war, which would be using firearms and fighting back with violence. So it's really trying to be that example that we want to see in the world. And I don't know if do you mind mentioning the price? Because I thought it was very inexpensive, and I thought it was really cool that you guys were doing it as cheap as I feel for the quality of content that people are going to get.
Yeah, we normally charge $197 for our virtual online workshops, but we're doing this one for $57. So nonetheless, there's still folks that are like, I don't even have $57, which is, I don't know, try to put myself in other people's shoes. But like at the end of the day, there's a lot of money out there. And in order to go out and get it, you just have to provide value for other people, help people solve their problems. There's all sorts of side hustles, like going to garage sales, picking stuff up and selling it on eBay, going to Goodwill, scanning the books, scanning UPCs and looking on Amazon to see the price. And oftentimes there's stuff that cost 2 or 3 times as much, but nonetheless, we're doing it for $57. And, you know, people still give me a hard time about charging for stuff. I don't know what the heck. It's like a libertarian thing. They're like, oh my God, you want to help people, but you're charging.
Right. You can't
And I'm
do
like,
everything
do
for
you
free.
work for free? Do you have a job? Because this is my career. I created a job for myself doing what I love. But here's the thing too. People that pay attention. So you do an online free thing, blah, blah, blah. People are less likely to consume the material. And so what we're trying to do is get people to consume this material because we pride ourselves in putting out some really good, motivating, powerful content. So I hope people will give it a try. You'll definitely get more than $57 worth of value out of it. And if you don't, we have 100% money back guarantee.
Well, I mean, I don't find anything wrong with charging because people don't value free. That is definitely well known. And also, I mean, there's costs involved for people to do this. So for people like myself and yourself to be able to commit all of our time to what we're doing, we need people to support us in ways, and that might mean charging a little bit of money for a course. Now,
sure,
obviously, you got a lot more going on than just yourself talking. The event is going to be live on September the 3rd at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Time. And then people who purchase a ticket can watch the replay at any point, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we'll go from 10 to 5 o'clock or so.
All right, man. Well, I definitely think that's really cool. I'll have links for this as well. And if you go to the Live Free Academy website, you'll see all these different links at the top. You can check out the podcast if you want to listen to the audio versions of Live Free Now with John Bush, which again, we'll have links for his YouTube channel, which we'll talk about here towards the end. The next thing I wanted to talk about was one of your other business ventures, Brave Botanicals. And people can claim a free ounce of kratom. You're giving away, you're giving away, but people got to pay for shipping for its green mangda. And I think that you said in the video the shipping is only like $5. So do you want to explain a little bit more about why you decided to do Brave Botanicals and make available quality kratom and CBD type products?
Yeah, so I used to run an underground bookstore, although most of the business came from natural health products. And a friend of mine brought kratom down, and I didn't really know what it was. But when the government tried to ban kratom in 2016 here in the U.S., all of a sudden, all these people started talking about kratom, and it really kind of blew me away. So it's funny because the government tried to ban it. They ended up attracting more people to it.
That's usually what happens.
Often happens. Yeah. So I tried it for myself at that time. I was like, oh, the government wants to ban it. What's going on here? And I really liked it. It helped me take the edge off. It helped me with stress. I thought it felt pretty good too. So I started researching it, and come to find out, it helps people with a lot of really serious issues. For example, a lot of people use it to quit opioid dependency, whether it's prescription pain medicine, Vicodin, all that stuff. Some people use it to help minimize withdrawal symptoms when they're coming off of hard drugs like heroin.
For that purpose, isn't it considered to be sacred in a lot of the Asian countries where it originates?
Yeah, it has a long history in Southeast Asia, and it's used as like a folk remedy to help take the edge off, to help get a boost of energy working in the fields. Like in the West, people sit around at the pub or sit around a fire and drink beer. In Southeast Asia, a lot of folks brew kratom tea, and it's kind of like a social thing as well. So my fiance actually used it to quit taking Adderall. She used Adderall for almost a decade. She wasn't able to quit because she always felt she needed it. And she would also drink pretty heavily because she was all wired every night after taking the Adderall. She would drink to come down, but she managed to use kratom to quit drinking and quit Adderall altogether. She hasn't had any alcohol in 2 years, so that's pretty cool. There's some strains that help with focus, energy. A lot of people that drink have trouble going out in social environments. It works as a social lubricant, helps with anxiety. It's really incredible. There's 3 different types: red, green, white, and blue. Sorry, not blue. The green is really good for stress and anxiety. The red is good for pain, relaxation, and sleep. And the white is more uplifting, good for focus and energy. And so I had my Facebook account banned, my Facebook advertising account banned for promoting kratom there.
Yeah.
And YouTube videos getting taken down. I can't accept credit card because the government pressures the banks that pressure the credit card companies not to do business with Kratom vendors. So it's been a challenge. That's part of the reason why I did this free ounce. I'm like, you guys are going to make it hard for me to share this with people. I'm just going to give it away for free. So yeah, people can go to that website that you shared in the links there and just pay $5 shipping and handling, and we'll send them. Now you have to use e-check, which is an electronic check. You just share your checking account and routing number, totally safe and secure with a reputable e-check processor. And of course, we accept a whole wide variety of cryptocurrencies as well.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. I mean, I know several people that use Kratom. I've tried it myself, and I didn't really necessarily get any sort of benefit from it. But at the same time, what I have started to learn from talking to a lot of people who use is that you really got to be very specific in the quantity that you're taking, because if you take too much, even just a little bit too much, you're not going to get some of the effects that you're trying to get. Is that something that you've discovered?
Yes. I encourage people to start with like a tablespoon in maybe a 12 or 16 ounce glass of water, and then you slowly drink it over time. That way, if it's something that makes you feel funny, because occasionally someone's like, oh, I felt a little nauseous after I take it. Chances are they maybe took too much, but you can kind of feel the effects over time, slowly and subtly. So you can tell if you like it, just keep drinking more. If you don't like it, then you can pull back. But yeah, it all depends on the person and exactly what they're using it for.
Another thing for me too is I found that it reminds me of what I would think grass tastes like. Do you have a remedy for getting rid of the grass taste out of the Kratom?
I just drink it with water. I'm drinking some right now, actually. So It tastes kind of like earthy green tea, but we sell capsules also, so you can avoid the taste altogether and take capsules. Or you can mix it with the juice or put it in a smoothie, and it won't taste as strong.
Okay. Yeah, that's just one of those things that was like, and I've also seen stores now that are selling like little concentrated shots.
Yep.
Is that something that you make available via your website yet?
No, that's a what do you call it? A tincture concentrate.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of those because I think they could be abused more easily because it's a lot stronger. So I'm a fan of just keeping it natural with a straight powder.
That makes sense. So it's like actually kind of misusing Kratom in a sense by doing it like that.
It can be misused more easily.
And then I found a lot of people that are using it are addicts. So I mean, depending on where they are mentally, because I've met people who have been heroin addicts that use Kratom and have gotten off, continue to use Kratom, and tried to help other addicts. Because right down the street from where I'm at, there's a methadone clinic, which is one of the saddest things to see, man. I'm sure you've seen them, and it's like The Walking Dead. And if you're not ready to give up that high that you're chasing, because I know if you go that method with the methadone, you're still going to get a buzz, some sort of high. If you go to like Suboxone that other people have gone to, they're still getting a high. So I don't want people to expect that if you're using Kratom that there's going to be any sort of kind of like high type effect. There's a lot of medical and health benefits that people can get from it. So I just wanted to kind of distinguish that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a subtle euphoria, but it's definitely not like the thing with Kratom is if you take too much. So if someone takes it and they're like, oh, I feel good, I want to take more, you just feel nauseous. It's not going to kill you. So that's one of the big differentiations between taking heroin or taking pills or whatever. A lot of people take it to the extreme. They start to develop a tolerance, and then one day they take too much and they end up in the hospital or worse, dead. So it's all about harm reduction. So you can become physically dependent on Kratom, but becoming physically dependent on Kratom, again, you're not going to overdose. And for someone that was previously dependent on heroin or pain pills, it's definitely an example of harm reduction. If there's somebody, because a lot of people take it that are struggling with addiction because they try to quit the heroin, quit the pills, whatever, and they go through insane withdrawal symptoms. Well, the Kratom helps to minimize those withdrawal symptoms so they can transition to sobriety. Now, mind you, some people just keep on taking Kratom, but it's better than continuing to take the other stuff. And if somebody was sober already and they used to be dependent on opioids or opiates, addicted to opioids or opiates, then I wouldn't recommend taking kratom at all in the first place, because when you do take it, you know, again, there's that mild euphoria could remind somebody of the feeling that they had when they would take Vicodin or whatever. So people just need to be responsible.
Could make them want to get the real thing at some point, depending on where they're at. And addiction is definitely a disease when it comes to something that you're physically addicted to. I had my my gallbladder taken out about 7 years ago, and when they took my gallbladder out, they did a scan to make sure that everything looked okay, and they said that there was still some stones in my bile duct, and they were doing an endoscopic procedure to remove the stones and punctured my small intestine and gave me this sepsis, which was absolutely insanely crazy. So yeah, anyways, one of the other things I wanted to mention that I want to bring up is the Greater Reset conference that you guys have been putting on. Let me go ahead and do a screen share for that. And people can find that at thegreaterreset.org. You guys have a new conference getting ready to come up?
Yeah, our 4th iteration of the Greater Reset, which is our response to the World Economic Forum's Great Reset. It's coming up January 18th through the 22nd. It'll be live online for anyone to watch for free, or they can join us in Mexico, Morelia, Mexico, or here in Central Texas. And it's really cool when I think about it. I mean, we're always just immersed in it. But when I pull back and think, you know, a lot of people are doing the virtual in-person hybrid, which we do for a lot of our events. But we're actually doing virtual, and the in-person is simulcast from Mexico and Texas at the same time. So we're bouncing back between, you know, me and Derrick introducing a speaker, Ramiro introducing a speaker down in Mexico. But yeah, we always have incredible speakers. We have Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Catherine Austin Fitz has spoken, Jack Spirko, Joel Salatin, and it's 5-day conference, and we have 5 different topics that we focus on. And really, a lot of it's about building community as well, because people are really excited to connect and to meet one another. And there's all sorts of relationships that get built. So we strongly encourage folks to check the event out. You can go to the website, thegreaterreset.org.
Can you watch the older ones there too?
Yeah, if you go up to the top, there's a video link, and folks will be able to check out all the videos before.
The Odyssey channel, does that have all the Okay, cool. I'll have to make sure I
website. But yeah, our Odyssey has everything as well.
I have to make sure I follow that as well. Now, at one point, did Colin Pape from Presearch, I'm wearing my Presearch shirt, was Presearch a part of some of the Greater Reset conferences?
Yep. Yeah, he spoke at the last one.
Okay, cool. He's very, very freedom oriented. Actually,
yeah, I was impressed by him.
I'll tell you something that he probably he has. He may have told you, he may have mentioned it. I don't know if it's come up in any sort of conversation, but he is a big advocate and philanthropist for freedom. And he had seen my interviews with Ammon Bundy, and we talked about people's rights. And Colin ended up buying the website peoplesrights.ca for Canada, which I thought was really cool. So they've got a Canadian, so they're bringing the people's rights idea to Canada, which is, to me, very much parallels everything that Freedom Cells is doing, which is the reason why I would like to do like a joint interview and find some sort of commonality and connecting the networks, the resources amongst each other, because they're so parallel to one another.
Yeah.
And complement one another as well. But any idea right now of any of the people? I know we're way off, but do you have any speakers yet that are announced for the Greater Reset for?
Well, we haven't announced them, but I'll do a sneak peek for some of your audience.
Okay.
We're going to have Catherine Austin Fitz. We are also going to have Christian Westbrook, the Ice Age farmer. We are going to have Jack Spirko of the Survival Podcast. And we're going to have a guy named Texas Slim that's doing a beef initiative here in Texas to help decentralize the food supply.
Okay. And are all those guests going to be in Texas, or will some of them be in Mexico?
Jack and Texas Slim will be in Texas. Catherine and Christian Westbrook, Catherine Austin Fitz and Christian Westbrook will be streaming in virtually. We're going to attempt to get as many of the speakers as possible, either in Texas or Mexico in person. But for the ones that can't join us in person for one reason or another, they're going to be virtually streamed in.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. And I appreciate you explaining that. So, and I'll definitely encourage people to go check out the Odyssey channel. I'm a big proponent of Odyssey and Library. I just recently had Jeremy Kaufman, the CEO, on. I've had him on a lot, but I mean, not only is the SEC attacking Library with that case that's going on for securities violations, but he's running for Senate in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know it at the time, but he's running in the same area as Bruce Fenton.
Oh, really? They're running against each other?
Yeah, and I'll get into that theory on that in a minute, but I'm going to be interviewing Bruce next week.
Bruce is cool. He's an old school crypto guy.
Yeah, he's very much comes from that cypherpunk mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely looking forward to that conversation. Jeremy told me in an interview, and this is really interesting. He told me that, because I'm like, what made you decide to run for Senate? Because a lot of people who identify as voluntarists or even in the anarchist element don't really go that route. So I was pressuring to find out what the deal was. And he said that some people had suggested it to him. Then at the end of the conversation, he told me that Bruce was running, and I didn't have any clue about that. And I said, well, he basically, if Bruce is leading, this is what he said, if Bruce happens to be leading in the polls or getting close to leading in the polls, he's going to shift his campaign in a way that would help what Bruce is doing, because he knows he's not going to win either way.
Sure.
And I'm curious if it was Bruce Fenton who actually encouraged him to do it.
Little conspiracy there.
But it's just using the system against itself, which I think we need to do more of. I mean, that's how we move forward. I mean, we're going to be using YouTube to promote all this freedom-oriented stuff. I mean, it'll be on Odyssey, Library, and a couple other platforms, but got to use the tools of the system against itself.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of running for office, but more power to him. Is Bruce running as a Republican or independent, or?
He's actually running as a Republican. Jeremy's running as a libertarian.
Yeah, he's a big Libertarian Party guy.
So I just thought that it was all interesting. So I'm definitely looking forward to the Bruce Fenton interview. But I do want to be respectful of your time. And again, I do appreciate you coming on. Do you want to go ahead and share some information about your YouTube channel? Because I think even before Freedom Cells and Live Free Academy and everything else that you're doing, I feel like you've been kind of a content creator, podcaster for quite some time.
Yeah, I wish I was doing the same.
Not your first rodeo.
Sure. Yeah, I used to do a Bitcoin podcast called Sovereign BTC on the Let's Talk Bitcoin network. I wish I would have kept doing that. It would have been awesome if I had been doing one podcast this whole time, because I'd probably already have over 1,000 episodes. But yeah, I like to put content out. I like to run my mouth, so folks can check out my YouTube channel. It's mirrored on the Odyssey channel as well. Live Free with John Bush on Odyssey. Yeah, there it is. So we'd love. Oh, that's the YouTube. You just have the.
That's the YouTube. Yeah, I don't have
the. Threw me off. Would love people to subscribe to the channel. Check it out. I regularly put out content and do a lot of interviews with folks. And it's just about helping to empower people. We're very, very solutions oriented with everything I do. So if folks are feeling frustrated, if they're just learning about what's going on in this crazy, crazy world, then they may find some relief with the solutions focus that we have.
Are you putting up like any extra kind of content that you've deemed to be too controversial for YouTube over on Odyssey or any other platforms?
No, I'm just paying attention to strikes. Like I got a strike recently for a video that I was encouraging people to the title is don't argue with those who don't get it. Instead, spend time building with those that do. And I must have mentioned the vaccine in passing, or maybe I shouldn't say that, the V word in passing, and the video got a strike. So when I get a strike, then I'm like, okay, maybe I better be more careful. But at the end of the day, if the YouTube,
I don't think saying that word though is a problem. I think it's in context of what you're saying it in conjunction with.
Somebody must have reported it then. And
it's possible that it could have been. Did you happen to appeal it?
I did. I appeal it every time. It never goes anywhere.
I mean, I've had a couple little victories. See, like, man, I've been dealing with the whole censorship thing really heavily since December of 2019, and it really started with what they called the crypto YouTube purge. It was Christmas Eve and Christmas of 2019 that they took down a bunch of YouTube channels, and I was mixed into that. And then I started getting involved with library. I started restructuring my channel, and I wasn't really thinking about caring about the censorship because it really hadn't ramped up at that point. And started restructuring my channel, adding in extra elements, and the majority of 2020, all the way in 2021 up till the beginning of November, I maintained at least one strike the entire time, if not two, and was like super close from having my channel deleted. The last strike that I got was early November. It expired early February, and I've been free of strikes. I still bring on controversial styled guests, still talk about things. It's just I've been trying to play a better game of chess.
Mm-hmm.
And I even use like Jesus as a good example, because in public, he would speak in parables, and then in private, he would speak plainly. So when I talk about what the V word you mentioned, I call them vacations and then jobs and things to that effect. Like, you know, I mean, they want to force me to take a vacation and to get a job. It's like, isn't that contradictory? So, and I get to use that language, have a little bit of fun with it, and still get the message across. And then I've been trying to do more uncensored type conversations and put those videos on other platforms to encourage people to make sure they're not being lazy, and also follow me on other places.
Well, yeah, people need to get with it because,
have you had any channels taken down?
No,
like
but I used to
killed?
publish content on Derrick's channel, and he had a lot of followers, and
Yeah, they killed
his
Derrick.
channel got taken down. One of the strikes was from a Kratom video I did a long time ago, so I felt kind of bad about that. But I don't even think it was the content. I think his was one of those ones where he was just too much truth telling. There was too many views, and so I don't know if a human had anything to do with it or what kind of algorithm they use. But the challenge is, you know, YouTube. I like to watch YouTube on Roku, right? It'd be great. Roku's like a device you plug into your TV, and you can get Netflix, HBO, and all that stuff. It'd be cool if Odyssey was on there. And thankfully, Odyssey stepped up their game. There was a time when it would always buffer, and it was just really jacked up, but it really runs smooth nowadays. So yeah, there's no reason why people shouldn't be trying to use Odyssey as the primary place they go to watch videos.
No, I agree. And I think with the SEC case and the uncertainty about the future of library, and knowing that Odyssey will still be able to continue to exist, I think they're putting more emphasis on improving Odyssey overall, because that's going to be the way that they are able to compete with YouTube, is with the centralized website.
Oh, but are the videos still going to be on the blockchain?
As far as I know, okay, even no matter what happens with the case, it's not going to take down the blockchain. Everything can still be utilized. It's mainly just their actual utility token, the LBC, the library credit token, that would be taken out of the mix. And I don't know. I don't think that you can. I don't like if you're actually using the library desktop or the version for mobile phones. I don't think that there's anything to do with. I think the token was kind of taken out of play in that, in a way. You can still earn on Odyssey, but I mean, obviously they've cut down on the earnings and stuff. But that was the big issue with the SEC, and Jeremy has made sure to, you know, emphasize that regardless of what happens, that the library blockchain will still continue to exist. So I mean, it's not as if we're going to lose that. It's just if you don't have a token involved and you don't have incentive for like people who don't care about the things that we care about, it's just going to end up being an echo chamber, unfortunately, if it ends up going that direction. So I'm hoping personally that library has success with the SEC case, because if they don't, it's going to set a precedent in crypto that's going to be bad, like really bad. But that's a completely different conversation. I appreciate your time, man. Again, I want to have links for everything that we talked about. Do you have any final thoughts or anything that you want to add to today's video before we do wrap up?
I would encourage people, if you care about freedom and if you feel unsatisfied with your life at the moment, to really take control of your thought process and use your mind to empower you and lift you up, because oftentimes we're our own worst enemy. So anybody can have a good life. Anybody can experience amazing freedom. And it's really contingent upon each and every one of us to step up our game, to create freedom, financial abundance, to live healthy lives, to raise healthy, happy, well-educated children, and to work together to create new systems, because I think as human beings, we deserve better. And it's up to each and every one of us to build a better world.
I love it, man. Well said. Well said. And you know, you're definitely have an open invitation to come back on the show. And I'm definitely going to have to get you and Ammon together on a podcast and make some magic happen with that. So I encourage people to check out all the links for everything we talked about. If you could bear with me real quick, just going to do the wrap up. I appreciate everybody for taking the time to tune in for today's video. Make sure you're subscribed over at John Bush's YouTube channel and on Odyssey. Again, everything will be linked down below. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and follow me on Odyssey and Library as well. And I'll leave you with this. Be blessed, be the change, practice change.